All right, people on Teams can hear me? Am I audible? Yes. Okay. All right. So in this session one, any concerns, anything that you have a query on from a session one perspective? Well, then we can go for the exam. All right. So we were talking about the find, grep, all those commands in the session one as well, and you wanted a cheat sheet kind of stuff. So see, what is the purpose of a find command? Is to search, right? When you do a Windows search or let's say a Google search, when you do, what do? You put in some keywords, right? Now, if we are, uh, I would not say expert, but an experienced searcher on Google, what we'll do, we'll include some tags to it as file type, modified date, or a date in URL, in title. So those tags we will include so that this becomes more precise and more contextual to what we want to search. Explicit, right? Same thing command if we have to search for a file or a text. So we put in those keywords basically. Now find is a command which searches for the file name. Grep is a command which searches for the content in the file. So that's a basic difference between the two commands. Now, when we look up for a file where we want to search, we can specify that. What size of a file? I believe it could be so more than 1 gigabits, less than 1 gigabit, plus 512 MB, minus 512 MB. All of that we can specify with the help of a tag of a size. Similarly, if you want to search for a directory or I want to search for a file, I can specify the type as well. What permissions I want to search for, I can define those permissions as well with the help of a perm keyword or a tag to it. So different tags that I can utilize. Now, the flexibility that find command provides is in terms of what you want to do with those search results as well. You can define that. So for example, you want to search for a specific type of files and change their permissions. You can do that. One command and you will be able to do those actions. You want to identify some files and delete those files. You can do that. You want to change the ownership of the file. You can do that. You want to move it. You want to upload it, download, whatever you want to do. You can take the actions on those identified or the search results. Okay. Now, if you look at the first screen, what you see is I'm searching in a etc directory, anything which is having a permission of 777, which is world readable, world writable, and executable as well, right? The second thing or the second example is find dot. Dot means here in the current working directory.
The screen is not shared.
Oh, okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So essentially what you can do is on the second instance, you can search in the present working directory permissions, which is 644 that you can search for. The third example is I am giving us absolute path where I want to search. So I'm saying find in USR bin permissions with 4755 means which means a set UID bit is set on those binaries. Why binary? Because it's a 7 executable, right? Then Similarly, I am looking for a SGID bit and a sticky bit as well in the USR bin directory. Then I can negate as well. Let's say I don't want a search result to give me 777 permission. I can negate it by giving a keyword of not. So whatever after not will come, that will get negated. Similarly, in the next command, what you see is an exec, which is an execute. So I am finding a file with a permission of 111, I think. Yeah. And then executing a chmod command recursively to make it 777 on all the search results. Okay. So whatever the files will come as part of the search result, I will take this action.
So basically the last after 777.
That's a two curly braces, like a opening and the closing curly brace. Okay, and then the escape is to basically terminate the command.
The last command will find the files which is having the permission of 111
Yes.
and executing that one is explained.
Execute chmod -r is to recursively. 777 is the permission set. And then two curly braces, one is open and one is closed. So it will take whatever is coming as an input, take an action on those files. And then escape is to terminate this command, which is chmod -r777. Terminating this command is by escaping and then the semicolon.
So this essentially means that any file with this 111 permission will be converted to 777.
Yes. Okay. Similarly, if I want to search for a file which is greater than a particular size, I can, like, I have given -perm, I can give -size as well. -size plus means greater than, minus means less than. So plus 512K, minus 512K. So I can search for the files with a specific size. Similarly, I can search for a file with a specific type. It's a file or a directory that I'm searching for, so that also I can specify. Okay. So
But then the last command would generally not be used. Not recommended.
depends. Like if you don't want a sticky bit, let's say, or a SUID or SGID on a specific folder, you can do it with the chmod -r and then recursively doing it. But let's say you're not sure where are those files, then use a find command and change it everything. So let's say I create a file. Now I am here at the root. Okay, so I can simply say find root, entire root -name file1. I don't know where it is, so I'm searching the root. I'm giving the name of a file, which is file1 as the name. And what I want to do is I want to list the ls of the file. Okay, so I can simply say ls-lrth like this and this. Now I will get some errors when I run this command. Reason being, I'm running it with a normal user, the $sign. Right? I'm searching what? Root. So there would be directories where I would be denied permissions. Right? So if I do this, I'll get a lot of permission denied errors because I'm not there in that group. Right? But at the same time, if I look at the result, there is one entry that I got, which is the file1, and there is a ls that has been done here.
Even though the permission is denied, but
Wherever I am not having the permission, I'll get the permission denied. Wherever I will have the permission, I'll go into the directory and search for the file. Whole system. Okay. Now let's say I want to let's say I do it with this and same command. Let's say I do this only first. What I get is a path. I want to do a ls of this file. So what I'll do is right. So you see the difference between the two search results. So one is giving you only the file, the other one is giving you the file plus the command executed to it.
What exactly LRT is?
So L means list, H means human readable. Okay. R is that I want. So for example, if I have, let's say 2-3 directories here, home, Joker, Joker1 and all that stuff. And if I do LRTH, so it'll list, so L is listing. It'll give me in the listing format. R is readable format, which is these bytes that you see, it's a 0 byte right now. But what you get the size of it, you will get that size. H is human readable, T I don't know, it's just on the hands. But yeah, LRTH is something which I used to do when I was young.
Is it the time? Because it says
Probably the time, yeah. LL also works. LL is nothing, it's a long listing, yes. Okay, I can execute my own scripts as well. So let's say rather than the command, I want to execute a script. So with -exec, I can give a path of the script that I want to execute on the results. So that also I can do.
so rather than going into the part and executing, you just tell find the script and then execute.
Okay. Now consider a situation that this command is used by an attacker to upload the files on the server. They can do it. Find all the docx files and then execute a curl script to upload the files on the remote server. They can do it, right? So what you should be doing it to prevent this? Disable the.
Permissions can be.
So if you disable the command line, then a normal user won't be able to work.
Execution of find others execution should be.
See, find is a. So if you look at find is in a bin directory, which means it's a user command. It's a user command. It is not a super user. Sbin would be a super user command. So it's a normal user command. Find. Like you can search the results on your Windows desktop as well. Similarly, you can search it on the Linux as well.
Execution of others should be.
Execution of others would be disabled. Okay, let's say if attacker has got access to my user access or my user ID, then
The password. Second for executing anything.
simply disable the internet, the upload functionality from the server.
Or simply give the find permission only to the user.
Sorry, just come again.
Or simply give the find command permission only to the root user.
You can do that, but what about a normal user? If a normal user has to search something, then
Or is there a way that like we can authenticate this simple command, for example, username and password for running this command?
no, you can do that. You can make it as a sudo command, but then even the sudo would be compromised. Like if my account has been compromised, I can use sudo and my own password to run this command again.
Okay.
right? So the best is identify what all uploads, downloads are required from the server and restrict the internet access from the server. Outbound access. Now, you can't really block everything outbound from the server as well. If a server needs to download, let's say, an antivirus update, they won't be able to do it, right?
Specific,
Correct. So that's one thing. Put the server behind proxy. Okay. Other thing is, at a firewall level, create a rule that a new connection cannot be created from within your environment to the outside.
Connection. Basically, all the systems will be connected.
All the systems will be connected.
New connection will be
Okay, so at a network level, you have some states, like a new is one state, established is one state, right? So if I look at, for example, I see connected, that is one state. Uh, uh, Listening is another state of the port. Similarly, I would have established and new state at the raw packet level. Where?
still covered. The print has not been
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, because of the alignment of the screen. So essentially, whenever a connection is getting established, let's say if you and me have to talk, then somebody has to initiate that connection. So whosoever is initiating that connection, the other end will get a state of new. It's a new connection which is getting established. Once the TCP handshake has been done, the connection state would move into an established state. Correct? When the transfer starts to happen, then it is like connected and all that stuff will happen. Now, from a real environment perspective, let's say we are here in Reva. Okay. You have to access Google. You have to access Google. Who will start that Google? Google will start or you will start? Internally. So I will open up a browser and I will say www.google.com. So from my side, the connection is going outward to google.com. And then, which means that from inside out, a new connection can be made. If Google tries to create a connection internally, then it is suspicious. Why Google wants to connect to a system of Shreyas, right? So that's a suspicious connection. If it is an established connection, both the parties can send the data. So Shreyas and Google are connected. He can transfer the data to Google and Google can send cookies on the Shreyas machine. That is fine because that's a part of the communication. That can happen. But Google cannot initiate a connection to Shreyas machine. So on your firewall, one rule has to be there that a new connection from out to in should be blocked. Stateful inspection. So out to in connection should be blocked. That is one rule that you need to put. Second, if you are using a proxy server, you can whitelist the URLs, which can be allowed conversation or a communication over the internet. So you can have those rules created that allow only whitelisted URLs, rest everything is blocked. So use the approach of a whitelisting. That is the second thing that you can do. Third thing is, in these situations, since it's an inward to outward communication, you can't really block the communication here, right? So what you can do is allow only HTTP traffic. HTTP, HTTPS. So allow only HTTP and HTTPS traffic, rest all ports block. So from inward to outward, if a new state of connection is getting established, let's say on FTP or SFTP or any other port, block that connection. What is allowed? Only HTTP and HTTPS. Still a risk exists. Why? Because an attacker can post the data on the HTTPS as well. That's where your proxy would come in to filter the URLs.
They'll establish a reverse connection.
So they will initiate a reverse connection, but reverse connection happens on a port.
No, they can use, they can have an HTTPS server.
Correct.
And they can send a traffic to that server.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. As a second line of defense, you will have a proxy server, which is allowing only whitelisted URLs.
So on the server machine, any initiated request should only be allowed once.
Correct. So let's say on the server, so I have a server, let's say. So I have this server. Now I want to, there's a command and control center here. Okay. What I'll do, I'll first put a firewall. What I will do a stateful inspection here. So that any outbound traffic on non-web ports, which is HTTP or S, should not be allowed.
But we can't
Should not
see
be.
the, you only see a quarter of it.
You see a quarter of it, is it? No, in the video it is. I can see myself and the board.
Stop the messaging for some time so that they can.
You can't see the. You can't see me.
We can't see you, sir. We can see you, but like we can't see the diagram that you're writing on the board.
Focus should be on, so when you, that will stop.
Maybe
Sir,
you
when
have,
you fit to
maybe-
frame, it'll adjust the whole thing. Click on fit to frame.
How do I say fit to frame? Somebody can do fit to frame.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think he can only do it in his system, so it'll work.
Okay. Right,
Yes, sir,
so-
we can see. Thank you.
All right. So on-web ports should be blocked. Now they can still post it on the HTTP and HTTPS. Okay. So what we'll do, we'll put a proxy server here. And we will only whitelist the URLs or IPs. Now, even if they do a reverse connection, let's say HTTPS, that will get blocked here only. Because that IP or the URL would not be in the whitelist. Clear?
So what if I'm uploading to my Google Drive?
That you can do.
That we can. So then
If the Google Drive is whitelisted, then you can do.
That they cannot know on this server. Because it's on the proxy.
Correct. But that is a malintention of the authorized user, insider.
So given this typical deployment, how do we still see that? It be like
Monitoring.
some.
No, so you can do, so that's what a SOC environment typically do. They monitor what files are getting outside of their organization boundary. So what are the, how much is the data going out?
How can they know when the HTTP is connected? It's all encrypted.
But they see on a Google Drive, this much of a data has gone. What is the data? They can't see it. right? Even that they can do. If they have a SSL offloader, so if they have a SSL offloader and they have a certificates from, let's say, Google given to them, or they have downloaded the certificates and put it on the SSL offloader, the SSL off, so before you reach to a proxy, your entire SSL data can be stripped off, go to the proxy. Once it is validated, pack it again and then send it.
So in that case, let's say I'm using my corporate lab.
Hmm.
There is no guarantee that my HTTPS connections are actually going in a secure manner. They could be monitored.
Internally, yes. Internally, yes, but not everything. See, for SSL offloader to work, they should have a certificate to open and see and then close back again. Okay, certificate is a public certificate which is available. They can't have a Google keys or a private key with them to decrypt the traffic. Okay, so what they do for certain services where they have those keys available by the OEM itself, they can see the traffic for certain services. So let's say I am opening HTTPS Reva. Reva has not shared anything with them. So they might not be able to see the traffic. They will see that Sri Krishna has connected to Reva and there's a 20 GB of data that he has uploaded. That they can see. What is that data? They don't know. So they can come back and question you what data you have uploaded 20 GB on a website which is not in my trusted domain. So they can question you. But if you do it like 1 MB, 20 MB a day, gradually you take over that data. That's a space that you can play with. That all depends on the maturity of the SOC in terms of what correlation rules they have put in. Are they consolidating or aggregating the data bandwidth over a week, over a month as well, to see how much of a traffic a particular individual has sent to the outside world? That they can monitor, but it all depends on the intelligence of the tool and the individual who is creating the rule. Okay, so what has happened in a target's breach? The SOC in Bangalore, they were able to identify that there's a 20 gigs of data that went out in a short span of time. They monitored the data. They don't know what that data was. They just saw there's a data which is going out. 20 gigs is the total size, and they created an alert. Alert went to the US in Target. They slept over for a week there on that alert, but by that time the damage was already done. Then they got to know that they have got breached, and the data has gone out, right? So it all depends on the maturity of your SOC. Alerting and then taking an action onto it is also equally important, right? There was an instance where in one of the investigations, antivirus was crying like anything. There's a malware. Keyloggers are there, malware is there, scanning is happening, ports are getting unblocked. Everything was there in the logs, but nobody was watching it. Why? Because they didn't knew the product. It was a new product installed in the organization. They didn't knew how to operate it. They didn't logged into it. For 7 months, it continued. Right? So that is where the approach of a defense in depth comes in. When you look at a find command, it's a simple, nice, pretty small command. But when you start to look at it from a different perspective, what damage it can do, that's where you start to build your defense strategies as well. Right? Okay. The next is a grep command. Now, grep searches for the keywords in the file. Okay. Now, let's say when you say grep next star, it's an wildcard that you're using. So it'll search for NIX keyword in all the files in the current directory because I have not given the path. Okay. Now, when you search for a whole word, which is Phoenix, it will search for Phoenix only as the word, which means space, Phoenix, space is what it will search for. The complete word. If you don't do W, right, and you in a file you have a Phoenix word as a word or a Phoenix Market City as a continuous word, grep will search that as well. But if you are only interested in identifying where space Phoenix space is there in the file, then you put a -W.
This will search for the contents within a file with that name.
Yes. With that keyword. Then you have IR. Unix is a case sensitive operating system. Correct? So a small ls command and a capital ls command are two different commands. Windows both works. I mean, Windows is a case insensitive. Unix is a case sensitive. Okay. So if I have to search a content of a file, ignoring the case of the keyword, I can use -I. And if I have to do a recursive search, I can do R. I can combine both to say -IR. Simple. Then -E is to inverse the search. For example, I don't want a hash to be searched in a file. So I have a file login.devs. So you see there's a lot of content which is coming with hashes. Correct? What I don't want these hashes to be printed. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll say grep -v, ignore whatever is matched, ignore. What I want to ignore, hash. From where? In etc login.devs file. So I get an output without the comments. Correct. Now, still, if you see the results, it's not something which is very clean. Why? Because there are some empty lines into it. So grep has removed the hashes and replaced it with the empty lines, which is okay. But I want to get rid of the empty lines as well. So what I'll do is I'll do a grep. So I'll pipe this result into another grep. So whatever is the output, take it again to the grep. And this time I want to ignore no slash n, blank lines. Okay. Which means, so in Unix, a start of a line is determined by a caret symbol. So ignore the caret, which is start of a line, and the end of a line is denoted by a $sign. So I'm saying ignore those lines where there is a start and a stop immediately. Okay. So the blank lines are gone. Simple. Then
Is it possible to read the password file corresponding shadow file that can encrypt?
no, you can't decrypt. Why? Because these are hashes, not the encryptions. So a fundamental difference between a hashing and an encryption is hashing is one way only. Encryption is reversible.
These are hashes. What are these?
These are hashes. So it's a one way only. So you can't really decrypt it.
So even the other end, we have to just hash it and then compare that.
Yes. That's what rainbow table does.
Is it not possible to have some kind of AI which can actually build a tree of all possible dictionary words, given a hash? Figure out a-
Yeah, use John the Ripper, simple. There's a tool called John the Ripper. So you can do a dictionary check, brute force check, rainbow checks, all that check you can do. On the contrary, you can just create a dictionary, take a word dictionary from the internet. I have some 40 gigs, 80 gigs of dictionary with me, text file with 80 gig size. So it'll have possibly all the words in it, right? Now, and there can still be passwords which are outside this dictionary, right? So you have a big list of dictionary, create that hash from the dictionary, all the words or all the entries line by line, read, create a SHA-256 or a MD5 hash of those passwords, and keep saving those passwords in the dictionary or in a encrypted or a hashed dictionary, and then later on start comparing it or a grep. So if you find it, you know on which line you have seen it, go and correspondingly on the dictionary would be the password.
Gigs.
80 gigs. 80 gigs of text file.
The virtual should have the capacity to.
Yes, absolutely. And that is where people, if you see, they don't really use the hardwares now. They go onto a cloud, use a GPU, CPUs, all that power there, run the server for 1 month, and you have the dictionary with you. Run the server for another 2-3 months, and you will have the password with you. Right? Correct. So in 20 to 30,000, you will have the password basically. It's basically a text file with all the possible words. So for example, in a dictionary, I can have Sudhakar as one line, Joel as another line, Shreyas as another line. So 3 possible passwords.
So to crack the password, we have to fill the possibilities.
Yes. Yes. Now dictionaries are little tricky because in dictionary, these are case sensitives. So you can have a small PASSWORD as one line. You can have capital PASSWORD. You can have PASSW0RD. So like this, for a normal password, you will have like 7-8 combinations or more. Right? Exactly this work is done by the brute force attack.
In that case, the success ratio of those passwords should be very less. Right?
Right.
Because it's a huge database and still the possibilities are infinite. Again, someone can repeat a letter, someone can.
Correct. So if correct. So let's say
Even if someone gets hold of that hash file,
Hmm.
still they'll not be.
So if I do a Google search, top 30 most used passwords in the world
But this is like based on the Google result.
based on the
attitude
breaches,
of people who aren't West.
wherever it is.
We probably perhaps could see regional and will determine the kind of password we'll be using for long term. Right?
Correct. So I'll tell you an organization where the password for a backup server for Oracle database was backup. In India, there's another password that they were using for a production server, which was initials of the organization at the rate 1234. And not changed for last 3 years. In India. Right? And obviously from a regional affinity or a cultural affinity, you will have certain passwords like Jai Shri Ram. Right? Can be one of the password, I don't know. Right? Now, that is where if you refer any of the best practices in the passwords today, they say password is good, but rather have the sentences as the password with spaces where you have uppercase, you have space, you have all the cases, and at the end put some alphanumeric, or in between put some alphanumeric as well.
So that is where I was studying. So given that data, recent updates of passwords, the kind of policies which everyone is enforcing at Google or any of the standard sites, the probability of figuring out any of these passwords is almost zero.
Now, yes, but possibility is still there, right? For example, I know a person in my network who has exploited Google or a Gmail to get access to his girlfriend's account. How? In the initial Gmail days, if you have forgotten the password, what you will do? Forget password. Click on the forget password, and what is your pet's name? And at that time, this movie, I think Hum Aapke Hain Kaun or something was there, where the pet's name was Tuffy. So everybody was using the name Tuffy. Okay, what's your birth date? Very common question, and everybody will put in the actual date there. Very easy to get. Today, if you need to get a PAN card of an individual, you just need to know the date of birth. Go onto the PAN website, put in the name, the date of birth, and you will get the PAN number. Right? So things are there, but we as human are not intelligent enough or not aware or considerate, I would say. We are aware, we are intelligent, but we are not considerate to secure our stuff. I'll give you a very lame example. In my community, there is a internet guy who then installs it. So this guy has a monopoly there. No Airtel, no Jio, no Tata or BSNL, nothing is there. This local guy is there who is providing the internet because he has laid down all the foundation for the cabling. So infrastructure investment this guy has done. So he says if Airtel has to sell the internet here, Airtel has to tie up with me, I'll extend that network to you. Okay. So he does that. Now the guy comes, installs the internet in every house with good, I think 5G, 2G, whatever that Nokia router comes. He comes with a good branded router, all the tools and everything he get along, and he will configure the wireless internet. The password would be simple, villa at the rate the house number. Okay. So in my community, if you are out of bandwidth, you have another signal, just connect villa at the rate house number and you will get that. And nobody takes that attempt to change that password. Only 2 steps are required, log into the interface portal and change the password. That's what it needs. But still, and people are IT guys there. Right? But they don't change it. So it's the steps or the do's that we don't do, basically. Right? And I was sharing the examples. So in one of the oil and gas company that I worked with from 2017 to 2020, 3 years, they got breached in 2013, where all their administrators' passwords were compromised. Okay. In 2020, they knew that they were breached in 2013. Still, they don't have a policy of changing the password on a regular basis. It's a one password that you can keep for your entire lifetime. That is one. Even the administrators. Now, to compensate the risk of the breach, what they have done, they have introduced a two-factor authentication. If I am an administrator or a user and I have to use my machine, what I'll have to do is I have to know my password. And secondly, I have to insert that my ID card is chip enabled. So I have to insert my ID card and then I will get the access to the resource. So from a defense perspective, they have built defense in depth because they are using two-factor authentication. But in reality, it is one factor only. One is already compromised. Right? Now, on the second factor, which is what you have in your hand, which is a smart card, that can easily be stolen. I am at a smoking zone, or let's say I'm getting out of a cab, or I am drunk at a pub, that can easily be taken away or stolen along with the laptop. Right? Many breaches that you see today are not 100% digital. They have a flavor of physical plus digital breach. One of the semiconductors organization that I was working in Bangalore, headquartered in US, they faced a situation where they were seeing whatever information that they were transacting, emails, the attachments, all of that was kind of getting a copy created and sent outside to another domain. Okay, they were trying to figure out on the rules on exchange, nothing was there. They were trying to search on the servers, nothing was there. So essentially, they searched everything. They couldn't find anything on the servers. Okay. Then one day after 3 months, it continued for a period of 3 months. One day they entered into a data center and some audit happened and a report was submitted. It took another 15 days or so to submit the report and get the audit completed. In that audit, there was a query posted by the auditor where the auditor said, I took a walkthrough of the data center, but I figured out all the devices, but I couldn't figure out one device which was there at the rack. And the administrator also said that he's not aware about it. That was basically a network switch. Okay, somebody has installed that switch where a trunking has been done. So a copy of every packet was going where, and there was a sticker on it, do not touch. So nobody was touching it. Not to touch, right? So nobody was touching it. Right? So it's not 100% digital breaches that happen today. It's a combination of physical plus the digital. Digital is somewhere they can sit, relax, enjoy, and watch the entire situation. Physical is where they get in touch to know the victim more better and to plant something. Right? So, yeah, these situations can happen, and that can happen with the passwords as well. So, yes, if you look at the breaches today, it largely happens in West. Very less it happens in the Asia kind of a region. Reason being, we are more aware and we have taken our defenses seriously. I'm not saying we are 100% foolproof. You still can go and penetrate the NIC websites, right? But at the same time, we are better than the Western side of it. They develop, we implement, they develop, they don't implement. I happened to bump into an Active Directory administrator, 13 years of experience in managing an Active Directory for a bank, and he didn't had any clue about the policies that got created or that how the policy to be created on the Active Directory. So it was a default directory policy which was there for 13 years. Right? And during the audit, when I asked him, can you show me the default domain policy and the customized policies, he says, policies on the paper. I said, no, on the Active Directory. I don't know what policy you're talking about. When I opened up that policy, it was default. Nothing was there. He said, okay, from where you have opened this? 13 years in the job. Right? So that's the state of the IT, I would say. And in India as well, you will find these organizations. In India as well, there are, and specifically in the SMB business, because they are very, very cost sensitive. So they don't want to invest too heavy on the technology because they are struggling for the survival. So that's where, if you look at a startup, they don't care. They don't care about security. One of my friends joined a organization in Koramangala. It was a startup, and they were working with, I think Google or something was the partner there or the customer there. And for every employee that joins, they give Macs. And that to the high-end Macs, like 32 GB, all configured, 100% Microsoft Office license, everything is there, but without tracking of where the laptop is. So they had a situation where 20 Macs were misplaced and they didn't had any clue where are those Macs. And they are a software development organization. So they have a code on that, on those Macs.
They're not going to invest on this kind of security technology.
They don't care. They said, okay, the code has gone, that's okay. We have a backup. Right. So the focus on security is not that much in the SMB side of it. On the enterprises, they focus really well on the security. They have established SOCs. They will focus on layers of defenses as well. But when it comes to SMB, they don't prefer to do much on security. Right. And he can share his experience as well. Right. So passwords are not so secure, I would say, in today's world. But yeah, we can't live without them as well. Right. On the phones, we have pins. It's a 4-digit max. In UPI, some banks allow 4 digits and some banks they allow 6 digits. So it's only a matter of 4 to 6 digits is what you have to try. Okay. We'll take a break. So we are going on a break and we will be back by 11:50. Yeah, yeah. Yes. So you work in HCL as network development. Okay. So you are looking for a PaaS, app services, networking, VM, which side? Networking. You'll be okay with the support role? Range. So I'll tell you how it works in Microsoft. So there are 3 things in Microsoft. I can use this paper. One is a level. Microsoft is very, very flat. They're reducing the titles even more. So the title that many of the people that you will see in Microsoft, they will have either SE, SE, SE supported engineer, senior escalation engineer, support escalation engineer, technical developer. Now, this role is something which is preferred for somebody who is grown in Microsoft. Why? Because they know the technology in and out. So that's a limitation. These two roles is something which is available as a title. As a role, it's a support. So cases will come, you will have to go on to the calls with the customer and support it. On a level, it starts from L56 and goes up till L62 as well for these two. So the title and level, they don't correlate. I can have a TA at L56 and I can have an SC at L62. So they don't correlate together. So when any conversation happens with the HR, usually this is the most logical conversation. Why? Because you're fixed, your bonus, and your shares. It all depends on the level. Okay. For example, I am at level 63 in Microsoft. My boss is at level 61.
Awesome.
He's at 61, I'm at 63.
Okay, so in the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I am at 63, designated as a manager. In PwC, I was a senior director. Right? So the contrast between the title you will see in Microsoft. Right? But when it comes to a level, my boss is at a higher title. So he's a director. He's at level 61.
Okay.
I'm a manager. I'm at level 63. So technically my salary is more than him.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, so this is the important parameter. You call me a bartender and give me level 67, I will be fine.
So what is the base level? Like
56. 56.
what starts with?
It starts with 56. And to grow into level, usually 2 to 3 years is what is looked out for. Okay. So let's say to go to level 62, you have some 6-7 levels in between. Right? So it's somewhere between 12 to 15 years or 18 years is a journey that people travel this way. Right? So if you are planning to enter into Microsoft, negotiate on the level. Title is just for LinkedIn.
And support has, so my experience is around 18 years.
Okay.
So will it be a suitable kind of
Yeah, I have team members who are there in this support for like 21, 24 years as well. So years is not a, see we call it as a support. Okay. Technically, when anybody joins, let's say you join on a PaaS side or an app services, both are related to development. Or let's say you join on a network side. Now, when you join, there's a complete technology-oriented hands-on training that happens for a period of 2 to 3 months. So you will get to know a lot of Microsoft stuff. Honestly. So you will get to know that. Once you're comfortable in that, then you will start to pick up cases. Okay. Once you're comfortable on the cases, let's say after a year, hypothetically. Let's say after a year you say, I want to do something else in my life and I want to be do a core development. Okay, apply for a position and move internally. No need to ask your managers. You have identified a position, go apply. No notification goes to any manager. Notification comes when you get the offer. Otherwise, nobody tells. Okay, so go ahead and apply that. So moving internally is convenient. Why? Because you have already screened, people have already noticed your efforts, your experience. They know you are aware about the Microsoft technology, you have worked onto it. So it's a proven record. So you can navigate through internal systems. But when you are applying from outside, that is also possible. You can apply directly into the organization, but again, these levels is something that you should be aware of.
And regarding the entries into the PaaS or app services, that is what is the right requirement is there.
PaaS app services, networking, VM, clusters, tickets.
So initially it is going to be usage of the technology. Eventually it's going to be development of the
You know, so for example, in PaaS and app services, the cases that you get is I'm a developer and I'm using Microsoft Azure and I'm stuck. My code is not working.
Okay.
So I'll open up a case, right? So somebody from the support team will look at my code, debug my code, and tell me this is needs to be fixed.
Okay.
And that I will fix it. But the support will tell me what to fix.
Okay.
Guiding them.
Guiding it.
Okay. And security point of view,
It's again support. So I'm a DDoS. So DDoS services. Now DDoS is not working.
okay.
Or I'm under a attack right now. I need a support from somebody to mitigate the risk. So I'll open up a case.
So what is the procedure to take the
So if you want to take a shot at it, just send me the chat. Yeah. You can-
So to begin with, it will be support notice.
What I am looking at is the support.
Ex Microsoft. No. My cousin, he is working here. So he is getting, he doesn't apply, people are approaching. He's into this, the business development team. People from Microsoft, Google, they started approaching Salesforce. So whenever you are like working in such an organization, let's say you're working for Microsoft, you work for 3 years or so. And then if you want to switch, you can easily go to AWS or that's all. About this language. His manager only like 50, 60 facts after he's been to AWS in 1 month. సపోర్ట్ వద్దని చూస్తున్నాను వచ్చేది సపోర్ట్
సపోర్ట్ ఎందుకు
సపోర్ట్ ఏంటంటే ఫోకస్ నెట్వర్కింగ్ తీసుకుంటే నెట్వర్కింగ్లోనే ఉంటాం
ఇప్పుడు ఎంత ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్
సార్
ప్రజెంట్ ఎంత వరకు
ప్రజెంట్ అయితే ఫిక్స్డ్ అవుట్ అంటే ప్రెషర్ మళ్ళీ మొత్తం ఐటీ ప్రీవియస్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ నుంచి ఎక్కువ ప్రెషర్ ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్ deployments, automation,
ఓకే స్లాట్ డిప్లాయ్మెంట్ ఇక్కడ
Architecture.
కరెక్ట్ వర్కౌట్ అవుతుంది రిక్వైర్మెంట్
కరెక్ట్ వర్క్ అవుతుందండి బట్ ఏంటంటే స్పెసిఫిక్ డొమైన్ మీకు ఇది ఇప్పుడు నేను నెట్వర్కింగ్లో ఇంటూ అలా ఉంటుంది
కాకపోతే Yeah, actually deployment చేసినప్పుడు మీరు deployment చేసినప్పుడు you will not get into the just check with securities and all those things, right? You just deploy it based on some policies. But topology wise, you might be looking at everything.
Topology wise, we look at everything. People deploy చేసిన తర్వాత we'll see what all ports has to be allowed, what is not allowed.
Okay.
Firewall configure చేస్తాం. Graph,
Yes, sir.
database.
ఇది మరి OS security point of view నుంచి మనం చూస్తాం కూడా.
OS security, it's depends. మీరు కష్టం అయితే మేము infrastructure deploy చేసిస్తాం.
But then you are covering everything, right? Like,
Sorry, like cover everything. But తిరిగితే మరి సింగిల్ డొమైన్ ఉంటుంది. Only network.
say, you have jack of all trades.
Master of network.
You will know what is your, you can figure out what is your interest. Once you become master of something, you can think of it.
Start building and startup. So management చాలా ఉంటుంది చెప్పి స్టార్ట్అప్ వచ్చిన Kubernetes అవన్నీ వస్తుందన్నారు. ఇప్పుడు Kubernetes స్టార్ట్ చేసినారు. Kubernetes
Sir, I think you are muted. Can you unmute yourself, sir?
Sorry. So I've got two files here, one and a file. Okay. Now, if I say grep this, what I see is this is a second file and this is a file one. Both has this keyword. Okay, so I get to see a file name and, and I get to see the keyword which got matched. If I say -c, I'll get to see the count. How many counts or occurrences I have got in the file. If I say like this, no occurrence. Why? Because it is case sensitive. So what I'll do is I'll do the IC so that I get to see the occurrences in a case insensitive manner. Okay. Now, let's say I open up this file. This is a file one. That's a content of this file. Now, what I want is this is okay. So line one, line two, line three. So basically, I have some content in the file, 4 lines total in the file. I want to see after the match. I want to see a line after the match. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll say grep -I for case insensitive search. -A is for after. -A is for after. How many lines after the match I have to show? So I'll say 1 and my keyword is this and in all the files. So this is a second file. There's nothing after it. So blank. This is file 1 and the next line as well. Okay. Now, if I want to do before and my keyword is line, for example. So I have B1 line. In the file, I have got this keyword everywhere. Right? So line 3 match before line 1. Line 1 match before line this. Then match. So show me this line. So it's a before. So wherever you see a match, show one line before as well. So that is B. So that's a B. So you have after, you have before. You want to see after and before both, put C. Capital C. Again, the switches are case sensitive. Now, if you see the line, if you want to see the line number where the match happens, just put -N. That will show the line number where the line or where the keyword has matched. Okay, so let's say not the count. If I see this is the line number. Clear? Simple?
The word in the fixed line, it will show the line.
Yes. Okay. Why it is important when you are searching long files like the logs, or there's a large text file that you're searching, then it comes in handy. Okay. Similarly, after and before or C, it comes in handy when you are looking at a log file. So what happens, let's say 10 lines before the match and 10 lines after the match will give you a context of the snapshot at that particular time, what all has happened in the log. Simple. Yeah. So you all have internet on your machines. On the virtual machine. Now, what happens in, let's say, Unix or Windows, we may end up into a requirement of encrypting the hard disk or encrypting a container or encrypting a USB device. Okay. Now, specifically in the world of forensics or a digital forensics, what happens when you go to a crime scene? You can't really lift the entire 10 hundreds of the systems with you and put it in a container and come back. You can't do that. So what you do usually is, as an investigator, you go with a lot of hard disks. You create some sectors or not the sectors, you create some slices or the partitions on those external USB drives. You take a snapshot of a system on those drives and then come back. Okay. For example, if I have to do an investigation in this room, it's about some 10, 15 systems here, roughly. I can't pick all the 15 systems and go to a lab and research. What logical is, I will connect a USB drive, 15 USB drives to each system and image these systems bit by bit. And then I will go back because it's an exact replica. I will go back and do the investigation on those 15 images or a 15 hard disks. That's easier for me. So 15 hard disks would be like this much and 15 systems is like way too big. Now, when you are into a discipline of forensics, some of the investigations are easy because it's like, who has done this? Just come on the site, investigate, and give us the report. Some investigations are politically influenced as well. Some investigations may involve a terrorist activity as well. We don't know. A criminal activity as well, for that matter. So there are chances or possibilities that when you go as an investigator, somebody may make an attempt to steal your hard disk. So somebody may make an attempt to take the hard disk from you, either by force or by giving you a pill or something. That's one possibility. The other possibility is, if your hard disk is not encrypted, then it is not admissible in the court of law as well. Because there's a chance of tampering in the transit. Okay. Why there is a chance of tampering in the transit? Because I am a field investigator and let's say there are 10 sites that I have to cover, physical sites that I have to cover. What I can do is I can image one site, ship these hard disks via a secure courier facility, ship these hard disks to a central lab, go on to the next site, take the images, ship those hard disks to a central lab, go to the third site, and so on. Okay. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm relying on a third party courier service to deliver these disks to the lab. When I'm relying on a third party services to deliver these hard disks to the lab, there's a chance of a tampering there as well. That somebody may try to change the content of a disk and stuff. Or if not change, at least they want to probably see what is the content of a disk. Right. So to avoid these situations, we usually encrypt the container. We create the containers and we encrypt those containers in the hard disk so that we can ship it with confidence that uh, it will not be something which can be seen from a confidentiality standpoint. Availability and integrity is still at a risk. Okay, so we will achieve a partial integrity as well on the encrypted container, because if I am able to decrypt it, means somebody has not tampered the disk. Okay. So one such utility which allow us to create the containers is a VeraCrypt. Okay. Earlier it was TrueCrypt. Now the name has changed to a VeraCrypt. What it does is, on a hard disk, let's say you have a 4 terabyte of a hard disk. A USB 1, right? You have a system where you want to image and the size of that system is 250 GB. So one option available with you is use the entire 4 terabyte for a 250 GB image. Because when you image, the entire hard disk is considered. After the imaging is done, if you have to do it, another image onto it, it becomes difficult.
So does it even capture the RAM contents as well?
Yes, yes, yes. So what we do usually is, in this 4 terabyte, we can create 4 partitions. Okay, or 4 files we can create with each file of 1 terabyte each. Okay. Now, when we create these containers, 4 files or 4 containers, when we create, we have to encrypt. So again, two options. One, either I can encrypt the entire disk. So entire 4 terabyte of the disk will take some 10 hours, 20 hours to encrypt, depending upon my PC as well. The other option is I have used only one slice, so I encrypt only one slice, which is faster. Yeah, so I have 4 slices, 1 terabyte each. Rather than encrypting all the 4 terabytes, I will encrypt only 1 terabyte where the contents are. Right, so it will be faster, at least 3 times faster. 4 TB versus 1 TB. Right, so rather than 20 hours, I'll probably finish my work in 5 hours or 8 hours. Correct? Now, when we want to do this, there are 2 steps involved into it. One, creation of a container. Second, encryption of a container, or 3 steps rather. Creation of a container, creation of a file system on the container, and then encryption of a container. Okay, so one step is I create a file of 1 terabyte. Once the file is created of 1 terabyte, I create a FAT32 or NTFS file system in that so that I can save the file in that container. That's the second step. And third step is to encrypt the container.
The container is as well as partition, or the container as in
The file, I'll show you. Okay, so at a face of it, you will see it as a file with a 1 terabyte size, but you will not be able to open it up unless you use the password or a key or whatever.
So are we considering it as it's like one single 4 TB physical hard disk?
Yes.
And you're virtually
Creating a 4 files or a partition onto it.
this kind of system partition type. So now PCs we have.
We can create system partition or we can create slice the containers.
This will convert a system this partition.
We'll see it. We'll see it. Okay. Now, in Windows, it is very straightforward. Let me see if I have that installed. Yeah. So in Windows, it is very straightforward. It's a GUI. So click next, 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 and the job is done. Very straight graphical interface. So what you do in Windows is create a volume. And you get a wizard like this. Okay. Where you have 3 options. Create an encrypted file container, create a non-system partition drive, or encrypt the system partition or entire system drive. So 3 options are there. For me, as an investigator, I may transfer the hard disk physically. I may transfer a container virtually over an FTP as well, or SFTP.
So basically I'm not carrying the hard disk.
I'm not carrying the hard disk. For example, you are at a lab, I am at a site, I have to give it to you. I don't want to rely on a courier guy. I can create an encrypted container, give that container to you over a secure channel, and you download and use that container. So it is faster.
This Veracrypt works for both Windows as well as
Yes. So I'm just showing Windows so that the concept gets clear, and then we'll move into Linux. So we are creating a encrypted container. Now you want to create a standard or a hidden volume, basically setting the attribute of a hidden. Okay. So location, basically the path where you want to save the file or a container. Okay. So let's say I go onto a desktop and I say it as a 1G. Just a name I'm giving. Okay. Or let's say CS08 underscore 1G. That's a file name that I'm giving. And I'll save. So it is getting saved at this location.
So this is something you're creating a drive.
We are creating a file container. Okay. Then what encryption algorithm I want to use? So list of the algorithms which are available. So let's say AES only. What is a hashing algorithm you want to use from an integrity perspective? Okay. Next, volume size. So what is a size that you want to specify in terms of KB, MB, GB, TB? You can decide onto it. Let's say I want to give it a 2 GB. File name is 1G, but I am giving a 2 GB size. Okay. Then a password with which encryption password basically, with which I'll encrypt or decrypt the content of a file. So I'll put up the password. Now I have an option. I can use the key files, which is nothing but a file with the encryption key, will be saved to a USB disk. I have transferred you the container online, but I'll physically courier the key to you to make it more secure. Okay, so whosoever has that key and the container will be able to open the file. Okay. The other option is the password, and the third option is a PIN. So this is a password that I have given. Okay. Yeah. See, it is also telling me that's a weak password. So what file system I want to create onto it, I can choose out of these file systems. So let's say I want the NTFS. Now, the way encryption works, it takes the key and the IV factor or a random key or a salt along with it, right? So to create that salt, I have to move my mouse. It's a random keystrokes or the mouse pointers locations basically. So it is capturing that when I move my mouse. So once I am confident that it is good enough, here is the mouse by the way. Yeah. Once I am confident that my mouse randomization is good enough, I can just say format.
Can get that logic. How it is.
The locations of the mouse pointers. Right. So for example, I can give a salt. So I have a password as password and I gave a salt as Reva. Both are crackable. Right. So I know the password. This is a salt, which is also crackable. So no purpose of encryption. Now I have a randomized salt and I have the password, which can be cracked, but these are random mouse positions. These are random mouse position. Now, if I combine these two, this is something which you don't know.
Then how the receiver will know when we are doing the cursor here and there?
Correct.
That's the password.
Receiver has a password. This is only the randomization key for, so for example, if I'm encrypting it, to decrypt it, what I need a password, which is a primary key, and a salt, which is this randomization.
Parts will same or
No. Salts will be different. So my password that I have entered is not the exact password which has been used here. So it will combine together, and when next time when I'm decrypting it, it will basically take that password out, and the remaining is a salt. Okay. So I have now encrypted the volume. Okay. Exit. Now, if I look at a desktop, I have a CS08 file here. Normal file doesn't have I am not given the extension. I can just name it as .txt as well.
So the Vera doesn't give it an extension.
I can give extension at my will. Okay. Now, if I look at the properties, it's a 2 GB file, exact size that we gave, right? Security details, everything is same, like a normal thing. If I double click it, with which I want to open. If I open it with Notepad, it'll take some time, but it'll be junk, right? Let's try opening it with WordPad. So it'll take some time to open this file, but it'll be junk. I mean, we'll not be able to see anything into it or read anything from it until I give the password. And I use VeraCrypt to mount it.
we have it at any
No, we have not added anything yet. Okay, so for example, I have given you this file as it is. right? And you don't know what is the purpose of this file. So you will try to open it in Adobe, you will try to open it in Word, you will try to open it in Notepad, WordPad, because you don't know what is the content of this file, right? Anyway, so it'll take some time, but it'll be junk. So let me close this. Okay. So now what I'll do, I'll open VeraCrypt again. These are the drive letters which are available as of now in my system. So in Unix, last time we kind of discussed on the mounting process. So a disk, a mount point, a command will create a mapping of the mount partition onto the folder, and I will be able to access the device or a drive. That's what the mounting is, right? So here I'm doing the same thing. This time I'll use, let's say, I as a drive, and I'll select the file. The file is CS08 1G. So this is the file that I'm mounting on a I drive. I'll say mount. It'll ask me for the password. This is the password that I'm entering.
You're mounting the data and I drive to the file what we have created.
Yes. So the file that I've created with the NTFS file system onto it, I'm mounting that on my computer. Now iDrive is mounted. So I'll open it up. And if you see, this is the iDrive. iDrive. Okay, 2 GB of size. Now I create a file into it. Or let's say a folder. So I've created two things into it. One is a folder and one is a file. Now I will come here and unmount it or dismount it. And I go to my system again. I don't see it.
Basically, I copied that into a pen drive and
Into a slice.
CS08.
Into a CS08 underscore 1G. I've copied that thing and I have unmounted it. Now, if I look at the size, it will still be 2 GB. Content is only some KBs or bytes, right? But you don't know what is inside this. You don't know what is the type of file it is. You don't know the password to open the file as well. Now I can securely send this file to you because you know what is the purpose of this file. So you will be able to make use of it.
No matter whatever file I put into this slice, the size of this slice will never change.
It is constrained to 2 GB. Fixed.
But what is the need of creating?
That's how I use it. So I have to take a system image. I will take a system image and put it into this drive and then unmount it. Now you don't know what is the content of this drive. Is it a system image? Is it a legal document? Is it something else? I don't know. And then I send this file to you or this container or a slice to you to mount and use it. So it is like you and me know the purpose, rest everybody doesn't know what is the purpose of this file.
So I should also have the Oracle installed on my end.
Yes,
I need to create a mount point with the file that you share and then.
yes, yes.
So there are two passwords asked, right? One was for encryption, another one was for VeraCrypt.
No. Encryption not.
As time of
Mounting, you entered a
At
password.
the time of mounting, I have to enter the password that I entered while creating the container.
so that can decrypt it and it can.
Clear?
And hashing, where is it using the hashing?
Is to validate whether this container is damaged or is intact.
That is happening transparent text.
I just wanted to see if there is any change in the file has happened in between. How the other person will be able to check there is.
They'll not be able to mount it. They will get an error in VeraCrypt.
Okay, so VeraCrypt does the integrity check. But then
For the partition, not for the file content.
in a usual way, this one we have VeraCrypt to whether the integrity has breached or. But in a general encryption data sharing, if I'm sharing something with you, and in between something has happened, and usually we will check the integrity. There is checksum that something which we talk about. How we are able to identify that checksum values has been changed. How can we validate that?
So we'll talk about it in a PKI infrastructure. Okay. Where you have a concept of a public key and a private key, and how we can interchange those keys to achieve either encryption or the integrity, or both. Okay.
So this is a 2 GB file that you defined. What if my system doesn't have 2 GB space? I will not be able to mount it.
Correct. Then you will have this as part of an external hard disk. Use it there.
How do we take the snapshot of the system? Snapshot of the system. How do we take that?
So there are different tools which are available.
Some DD command that can be used.
On Unix, DD command can be used. On Windows, you have FTK Imager as a tool that you can use, or Encase that you can use for live system.
So the FTD and Encase, they can take the RAM snapshot as well. And how does that, like, even that's a part of RAM. Like tool is also part of RAM itself.
Tool will be part of the RAM as well. Tool process would be part of the RAM as well.
Process will be part of the RAM, and it also it should be run as a root user or administrator,
Yes.
so that it can take the entire.
Yes. Correct.
There will be an option for live acquisition.
So the image that we are referring to is a system image. How different is it from SysPrep?
Sysprep is only native to Windows, where you prepare a system for an image ready, right? So think of it as a Symantec, what's the tool name? Symantec Ghost Imager or something which used to come earlier. So it's like a Ghost image, which is the exact replica of your hard disk bit by bit onto the another medium. Okay. In Sysprep, some of your hardware related drivers doesn't go because it's very specific to your hardware, right? So it basically strips down those uh, parameters which are specific to your environment. And when you install that image into a new
Sir, we are not able to hear you.
So we can't hear you. Anything. Hello? Hello?
Sir, we are not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we are able to hear you now.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So what we were discussing? Veracrypt. So yeah, questions on Veracrypt.
It was accepted by court of
Hmm.
it has to be and other to prepare punch issues, defense of integrity.
Correct. But any other question on Veracrypt?
Yeah.
So can we use this across different operating systems? For example, if we mount the disk in Windows, and can we unmount it in Linux as well?
We can do that till the time file system is supported by Unix.
Okay.
You can choose multiple file systems when you're creating the
One.
partition.
That was my question, like, the source would be a Linux equal to server. right?
Yeah, you can have it. It's a portable drive that you will get.
No, source is equal to server, and then I come to the lab. My lab is a Windows machine. I'll be able to take it.
So let's say if I created a file with 10 GB and I only have a USB drive of 5 GB, and then I have the 1 GB, I have 1 GB contents in that. So can I transport it using this USB drive, or it is mandatory that we need to have a USB drive matching the default size of the file?
No. So you can create the container size depending upon your wish or your assumption or your requirement. So usually when I was doing the investigations or the collection of the evidence, I used to take 1 TB of hard disk and create 2 slices, 500 GB. If I am capturing a server content, this is I'm talking about 2011-12 when the servers were not that big. Today the servers are into the terabytes as well, and the hard disks have also grown. So what we usually do when we do forensics and we are landing ourselves into the evidence space, contact with the organization and confirm the spaces, or at least at a raw number level, how much each server has a space allocated to them. If it is a virtualized server, it becomes all the more easy to capture because you just have to copy the VMDK or those files into the hard disk and that's the job done. But in terms of the on-premise server, just get the validation in terms of how much is the disk size on that server. Irrespective of used or unused, what is the total disk installed on that server?
Okay.
Yeah, you were saying.
So for this Vera, like if we are using, it is a, does it have a key manager or it's only a agent based one where we have to install a
Agent based.
Agent based. Then how about the key management when we?
It doesn't have.
It doesn't. So when we just create encryption for a particular slice and it transfers it to a USB, so we have to transfer the USB to the one to the lab or create it to be.
And usually the investigation would be short-lived. It's like month, 2 month, at max 3 month. After that, as per the contract, either you destroy the evidence if it is not required by the court of law. So you will destroy the evidence, or you will return the evidence back to the organization based on the contract. If it is required in the court of law, then you will retain those evidences.
So this is an open source tool. So to have this, we have to purchase license and all.
Nothing. Just download and start using.
So can we have multiple copies of whatever?
Yeah. Just Control C and Control V.
Predominantly, this is used to encrypt the partition.
Encrypt the partition or create a container and then encrypt the container. Okay, simple. Now, this was a Windows utility that we saw. From this wireless, the SSH is not allowed, Rahul. From this wireless internet, SSH is not allowed. I don't see it. SSH doesn't work on this.
State was talking to about.
Student.
Race will be there.
Rahul is
But
mobile. I am audible on the Teams, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So from a VeraCrypt perspective, since it is available on both Windows and Unix, you can download it on a veracrypt.fr website. You can download the original copy, don't download it from a Softpedia or anything, any place else. Just download it from a VeraCrypt only. And once you download, it'll be a RPM package or a Debian package depending upon your Unix environment. I have got a package with me on here, which is for Mac. So I've got this RPM package. So to install, I can just say RPM-IVH. I is for install, V is for verbose, H is for human readable progress bar. So this and then the RPM name. So I've got this VeraCrypt installed. Now, since it is installed, I can just use it like a normal command. Problem. Error while loading shared libraries, libfuse. Okay. No error here, right? Let me just download it again. No, no. Probably some updates might have happened. So this one is the older one. This one is a newer one, so let's try with this.
Yeah, upgrade. No? Then it does install the one.
Yeah, that's okay. I can just forcefully do it. Now,
DNSs can be forcefully installed.
I have installed forcefully.
Even if diffuse, we can install something.
Yeah, but I just don't want to take a issue with this. Try it if it's working on you. It's console. If you have a GUI access, download the GUI one. It's working.
I installed 1.25.
Correct, but is it working now?
Some very nice version.
Some problem with
From the command prompt, if I have to open Paraquip, what should I do?
GUI or CLI.
Let's say GUI and both.
So if it is GUI, just say Veracrypt. It'll open up a GUI interface. If it is a CLI interface, just run this command Veracrypt -c, and it'll start to give a wizard in terms of a creation of the the wizard that we saw in Windows. It will be on the command line step by step. It'll ask you want to create a container, what encryption algorithm, etc., etc., etc.
You only open, sir, but by writing CLI, you have to some say GDK dialog map without a transit specialist.
Yes, so you are on a command line, what command you are using? No, that is for a CLI interface.
So CLI, yeah, CLI, it's not working. For,
You have installed a GTK version, which is a GUI version. So this command will not work on a GUI version. In a GUI, it's like a normal Windows kind of an interface on.
CLI is create a folder. It has to go to a file or the location of the file. Right? Created a folder and give the path of that folder download. Still, it is looking for some file. I can.
Wait.
The folder is
Asking where, so what it is.
created a folder. Down here. Next.
It's taking the
Never say this way. For example, the common. If you have used this part, then I know that part is
Cannot assume.
Now, if we select any of these, right, basically the same level of encryption should be there with the person who is going to switch. To output.
No, not a problem.
If I select use all available free streams. Okay. Okay.
That's it. Everything. If you have that, you can
Person running on.
Let's just these key files. I can download this piece.
select the file, then the keys, then you shift those keys. So if you select ext4, computer will not be able to. Fact is something which is common.
So the commands are there.
In this area, not outside the in this space.
Just
Take forever to by some names. It will show the random.
What was that?
Commission is released to the
It was updating weather list. I was reading the internet news was
exactly.
You are doing it now.
So not necessarily we have to.
No.
That was targeting for that.
Even dot is also the so that's
It was a party mention.
First graph and enter the version slash term slash.
Be able to install it in the cloud.
Volume size.
What display is displayed
For random file.
Yes. So should be using the same cluster.
Mouse.
Options like here, even so many long passwords.
No, that's
Same case.
This is system password.
You can use every key. Numbers also. Keypad. Numbers also.
Nice, everything is feature.
I can see how it's like.
Hackers is not the keep that.
This is what they're doing. This is what hackers are doing actually, generating random numbers.
Starting to type the character.
And this is the one which we see. I have to bring it to frequency like this.
Okay, now go back to the change. See that. This mouse.
Yeah, it is long.
Okay.
But guess what? Navigate to that. So you're saying, I mean, what is if I was speaking to you guys?
Timestamp based on your site. 1 GB, right?
As a folder.
Size is 2 GB.
It is a folder.
Give H there. It will show you in terms of.
If I want to edit that file.
So you can now save the content.
It's a file, right?
And once you unlock, this will go off. Now there will be no there.
It should be mounted on someone else's system.
So your content.
Now put it content into it, right? Do it.
Others would not be able to do that.
So this is slash and slash.
Some those patients still application.
Now in this this here like when I have to find let's say
No, no.
if I want to just hold it and I want to add one file.
No, not that previous.
I
Slash
should
and
go
slash.
to
Slash from slash media.
What is it? I can
See you want to get a file.
EXT bills.
So file would be
I want to make an entry in PowerPoint to chat.
What are you expecting? iPhone, right? iPhone.
I want to see this. Size still remains the same.
So in the power, it will be the same.
Options, but specifically by some time. I can see, I can hear. Something I can certify enough.
Fine. One is the 2 GB that it's almost
Okay.
if you got the disk size. So this should go to that document power. That is, if you guys believe I can.
What is it?
Good video, this there never before. I had option of the disk. One person already had pictures. And then that's a something else.
It's in video.
Which file?
You can.
We can get, but it will be bigger text.
Already.
It does both situation.
No. The file is not encrypted.
Sure.
This is not encrypted, this is not encrypted.
Okay.
Only the disk space is encrypted. So once you unmount it, then to remount it, you have to decrypt the file,
Yeah.
the file system, not the content of the file.
So the content of the file is not.
Yeah, so it's like you put a lock outside it. Inside it is all open.
The next time the system reboots, it doesn't have to.
If you want command line, just go to this, where you want to just solve in our file. This one,
Just search for this. Now they just like bad option, bad for blocks.
this.
Not it's been more
This file problem. Test what is the type of file. So just say file. So depends on space. It's a data block. It doesn't tell you whether it's an NDF, whether it's a text, whether it's a binary. So no, on the contrary, we have few there's a file slash media. That
you want to do this?
you get to this text file, text file. Okay, so
See what happens is
Not able to connect to this.
text able to connect, but it needs to know from where it can download. That list is there, right? That is not. There is a bit of commands to update the list. But when you do that,
pulling so much content. Now, can I, given the process is really anxious to what if we install that package?
That's what, for installing the package, you need it.
So to unmount, you can do
Homebrew.
Homebrew.
So like, if
You mean the start.gz file method.
No, the homebrew is a package manager.
Even Yahoo is also a package manager.
So I'm getting this.
Apt is also a package manager. Type in the so do apt. Apt is not here. Apt enter.
so you select this and then register.
RPM.
Now, go to my reference code. Doesn't exist. Why did you go on? So you already you will get to see this location again on the ports. Okay. We'll take for lunch. That's okay. Like this. Yeah, I mean, Rahul was saying it is not allowed inside the campus. All right, so we'll break for lunch. We'll be back by 2:30.
For those. You'll update that.
I think they're already gone.
Oh, they already went.
The people on Teams are aware that we're going for a lunch.
Ah, yeah. You will join us.
No, I'll go for a smoke.